Hello viewers, and welcome out to a brand new how to play video. Today we're going to be learning how to play Pokemon Red and Blue, and whether you're a seasoned veteran or the first time playing these games, I can almost certainly guarantee you will learn something new that you have never before. Now, this is only going to solely focus on the Generation 1 Red and Blue games, not Pokemon Yellow, not Gen 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all that great stuff. We're going to put those into separate videos if this one does well. So be sure to smash that like button because it really does help out the video and really just helps out the channel and everything all night. And be sure to subscribe if you're new here. We'd love to get to know you, and we do more than just Pokemon content on here, so we'd love to get to talk to you and everything like that. But let's dive into this how to play. Welcome to the Pokemon Red version for right now. Pokemon Red and Blue are literally pretty much 90% the same games with a few little minor differences, mostly either in palette colors, if you have the Game Boy Color, or regional variants. For everything else though, the game is exactly the same objectives, same all that stuff. So let's start from the miraculous start screen that you see before us right now. So what you might be wondering is, what's so special about the start screen? Well, most start screens obviously have the press start, press A. This, however, does not, and you can't just go around just pressing any button. You can't press B, you can't press, whatever random, either on your keyboard, on your Game Boy, or whatever you're playing on right now. Can't just press any certain button. You have to sadly do some trial and error and figure out what buttons you can maybe do. In case you don't know, these do run off Game Boy controls, so you have your A button, your B button, your star button, and I think that's pretty much it. There might have been a select button on certain ones, and then the L and R's once you got the Game Boy Advance and all that, but those are future Pokemon games. Either way, let's go about this start screen. So, maybe you know this, and maybe you don't, and actually, you know what? Maybe we're tired of Big Me. Maybe we're tired of Big Me. Let's make Big Me a little smaller me. That way you guys can actually see more so what I'm talking about. Might help the video a bit. But the start screen that's right here that you're watching before you, rotate through a select number of Pokemon, does not show all the Pokemon available in this game. It just shows a very small bit of them. How it decides these, I'm not actually sure, but if you do certain randomizers and all that, these will actually change to different Pokemon. So maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't. If you're not doing a randomizer, it usually cycles through like Magikarp, Onix, Paris, Weedle, Jigglypuff, Pikachu, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmander, I think Clefairy's in there, Ghastly I know is in there, Abra, as it appears right now, Scyther's in there. So yeah, there's some like early game Pokemon, like Pidgeotto that's shown in here. There's some very random late game Pokemon, or Pokemon that you can't even like really easily acquire, like Ponyta, and you saw Rhydon there for a little bit, that are kind of more late game or selectively found. Even Ditto's a later game-ish one. But either way, just thought it was very interesting. As these Pokemon cycle through and through and through, whenever you do press the A button or the start button, you will hear the cry of that Pokemon, just as an interesting little tidbit. So if you press A, let's say onto the next Pokemon, which is going to be Clefairy, you'll hear the Clefairy cry that was just here. Once you hit the A button, you're going to typically not see this screen. I know maybe, should have had this on like a completely erased file, but you know what, it shows it in case you're maybe continuing off a game you bought from somebody else or something like that, how it might look. If you have a brand new out-of-the-box copy of Pokemon Red, all you're going to see is the new game and the option. Those are the only two things. If you have a used copy, you're going to see this continue game thing. If you want to see what somebody else has done or hasn't done, you can press the continue and see where they are in their journey and what they have going for them. Otherwise, I always suggest doing the new game just to get your own experience. But before you press A, and I know many of you will just go ahead and just straight up press A onto new game and not think of anything else and think that's totally fine. I'm here to tell you that is not fine. Why? Why is it not bad? I don't care if this is Pokemon or any other game, always go into the options menu. You might figure out you're on hard mode, you might figure out you have it on slow motion mode, you might have it on some weird, I don't even know what mode, but always just go into the options. Just make sure you're not making this more challenging than it needs to be. First, you're going to see what is the text speed option. I'm just going to kind of go down the line here. But the text speed, I feel like, is pretty self-explanatory, but the slower the text speed, the slower the words go across, the faster text speed, the faster the words go across in a little text box. Now, whether you're a slow reader or a fast reader, honestly, that speed doesn't hardcore matter, because no matter what, you always have to A before the next text box to appear. In pretty much all scenarios. There's a few random ones in Pokemon where they will continue dialogue on, where maybe you want the medium or slow options, but definitely in these earlier games, it's one text box per dialogue, so if it's on faster, it just loads all that text box, you're able to read it, press A to get to the next newest text box. Next we have the battle animations. Pretty much unless you're doing a speed run or something along that line, pretty much want those battle animations on. Sometimes it's cool to see that Hydro Pump animation come out, to see the attacks actually take place. Without that, you just don't get all that immersiveness, and it's just not cool. Battle style, which is probably the most complicated one on here to describe, but I will try my best to describe it. Battle style is the style of battling. I feel like, that's the best way to kind of go first about it. But the shift style, what shift means, is when you're battling, say, either a trainer or a wild Pokemon, usually 90% of the time trainers, but future games sometimes have wild battles that are doubles, triples, all that fun stuff. Anyway, when you're battling wild or trainer Pokemon, you beat one of them, it'll say, this person's about to send in blah blah blah, do you want to shift or switch out? That's what shift allows you to do. It allows you to switch out a Pokemon for something else in its place that maybe would give you an advantage, or a different Pokemon to be out there in case your guys was weak, about to die, you're about to die, things are struggling with you and you need a new team member in there, something to sack off maybe. All that's what shift does. It allows you to change and switch out, or shift out. Going to set, which is usually the harder mode. Set means you do not get that option. You no longer get the option to switch out your Pokemon before a turn and everything like that. So with shift mode, like I said, you would beat a Pokemon. Next one would be saying, oh, this Pokemon's coming in, do you want to switch out? You get to choose whether you switch out or not. If you do so, then your new Pokemon comes in, then his Pokemon comes in. If you don't, then your Pokemon stays out there, his new Pokemon comes out there. And set, his just is sent out. There's no question about whether you want to switch or not. His is just sent out, and you're left on there. Now, you can still technically shift or switch, but now, therefore, you're wasting a turn. Pokemon is a turn-based game, all that stuff, so when you're in these hard, challenges and you're fighting, something that's now really strong against your team, and you don't have it on the shift mode and you have it on set, you're going to be taking maybe unnecessary damage because you're, no longer able to just automatically switch. You have to now waste a turn to switch into something else, which is now going to take damage from this new Pokemon that just got sent in. Makes it harder. A lot of people like that challenge, all that stuff. Now, before we do really... Actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and press new game just to get some new music going on in the background. How about that? We'll do that for us. But first and foremost, about Pokemon. Is it meant for those of the younger age? Technically, yes. It is geared for those probably under the age of 13. However, what attracts it to those above the age of 13, we'll just say it that way, definitely the probably 20 plus ones, like myself who's in his 30s, what attracts us still to this game is maybe, yes, there's probably a small percentage of nostalgia here. Let's be honest. There is probably that little bit of nostalgia of, like, I remember these games, I want to see what I remember about that. But the other thing is this magical, fun little thing of luck, RNG, craziness, we'll call it, that can just happen at any point. And it does make it challenging. It does make it harder. Like I said, can you beat this as a younger person? Definitely. You can find ways. You can cheat around it pretty much, almost. I shouldn't say cheat, but it's the best term I got right now. However, like I said, this game and all the Pokemon games have this magical thing called RNG, which stands for Random Number Generator. What that means is at any point, anything can happen. You could take more damage, you could take less damage, you could do more damage, you could do less damage, you could get a crit, you could be critted, you can get a status condition, what else? I don't even know. There's just so many high rolls, low rolls, bad natures, bad abilities, hidden abilities, all this stuff that factors into Pokemon as a series as a whole, but mostly in the battling side of just at any point, something that could, whether you're the most veteran, best Pokemon player out there, something unexpected can happen, meaning you're out there with your strongest Mon, you're all like, yeah, I can sweep everything with this because I'm all like jacked up. Bam, you get, a low roll, not very effective hit that you thought was going to instantly one-hit KO, now it's going to only two-hit KO. He lives on a small bit, he does counter and kills your best Mon. We've all been there. We've all been there as the seasoned veterans, but as you newbies, you'll soon come find out that craziness happens. Sometimes, yes, you can go through a whole battle and no RNG will happen, nothing, and it'll be just completely normal. But there'll be other times where you go through 5 turns in a row of getting hit in confusion, or missing a move, or things along that nature. But let's dive into more of the game here. So, the first thing you will see is the professor that is right here before you in his sprite form, and he will welcome you to the world of Pokemon. He will lie to you within the first forms of dialogue and say people call him Pokemon Prof, or Pokemon Professor, whatever you want to say. No one in their right mind calls this man Pokemon Prof or Pokemon Professor. They all refer to this man as Professor Oak. He's an OG, you will respect him and put respect on his name. I don't care who you are, respect the Oak. He is the first professor you do meet. He will always show you a Pokemon in the very beginning, as shown here. If you're doing a randomizer, this Pokemon is also randomized, and you will hear the cry of said Pokemon after you press the A button, as you hear right there. And it tells about how, some people raise their Pokemons as pets, and other ones, use them for battling, and some study them. There's more things now, like breeding and craziness, but this is back in Gen 1, before those things existed. Every new generation has something new to add. New things, new Pokemon, new mechanics, new features, and all that. So if you don't like a certain one, that doesn't mean all the rest of Pokemon is going to stink. The next one might have something new that you didn't think of. Something that now will draw your interest because, oh hey, that didn't have it in the last one. And sometimes they stick with that formula for a while, and sometimes they scrap it for a whole brand new one. Look at Gen 2, they add eggs, they add breeding, they add males and females, they add so many new things. Look at Gen 7 where they get rid of all gym leaders and gets rid of so many other normal things that we gotten accustomed to and went to a whole new formula. Gen 5 where they revamped Pokemon from the ground up and all that kind of fish. I mean, really technically yes they did, but they kind of didn't because you could still technically get the Gen 1 through 4 Mons in there some way, somehow. But still, ultimately, it was a brand new game. But every new Pokemon game is going to ask you this fabulous question. What's your name? And what's interesting to note about this little menu here is this actually game came out before the anime. So it's interesting that Ash is a choice here. Just because, the anime wasn't out yet. At the time of really technically release of Red and Blue and everything like that. But yeah, just interesting little note. And also Jack. Why Jack? Was it the most popular first name of a male back then? I'm not sure. Who knows? But I always suggest do a new name, which means you can type in pretty much any name within the allowed characters. So yes, you can name yourself like Poopy or I don't know, Joe Schmo or something like that, as long as it fits in those spaces. Now my name, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, is Mitchell, Mitchell, whatever you prefer, or my channel name, The Modern Gamer, TMG, whatever you mind you. I'll take anything pretty much at this point. But as you see, as someone that's named Mitchell, my name will not fit. It's too long. And yes, I can go by my nickname Mitch, whatever, but I usually, I don't know, it's like I said, I don't really have a preference between Mitch or Mitchell. But yeah, sometimes names won't fit, so you have to kind of be smart about it, but, be a little grown up about it. If you want a silly name, go for the silly name, that's fine, whatever, it's your gameplay, but, maybe go for something a little more classy. I'm gonna go with TMG, just the abbreviation of my channel. I feel like it's a good one to go with. Next, usually it asks you about your rival. He tells you how this is his grandson. Every rival has a different backstory and all that. As you read dialogue, sometimes you'll figure out things about the game you maybe didn't know. And yes, he doesn't know his name, but again, one of those instances where Gary is shown here, anime, John, why John, don't know, probably common first name, don't know, probably could Google it, but don't have time for that. Rival's name, again, you can name it whatever. You can call him Loser, you can call him, you know, Petty or something like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and call him YouTube, just YT for short. And then he will send you on your way, turn you into an 8-bit sprite form, and this will be the last you see pretty much of 3D models other than in wild battles. And the music changes, which is something you're going to need to be keeping your ear for. Listen for music changes. It is key throughout this game. It's going to tell you when you've entered a new place, a new scenario, a new route, a new area, all that great stuff. It's very important. When you first get into your room, it doesn't hurt to press A on your TV and stuff like that. Sometimes it tells you what you're watching or what you're playing. In this instance, it was the SNES because that's what was big, you know, during those days. If you go to later generations, you'll see things like the Wii and, you know, the Switch and stuff like that. Or he'll just be watching TV and watching, you know, like, what was it, Lost Boys or something like that, I don't know. I always say go to the PC, sometimes that has useful information or useful items that can help you throughout the game. So go to the PC and hit withdraw item, and sometimes there'll be a item that helps you throughout your game in here. If you have a randomizer on, it will randomize this item, so be noteful of that. If you need to, you can put the item back in your PC. You can get rid of the item through toss item on this menu, or you can just get off the computer and enjoy your room. Now let's open up the menu button. So press start to open up the menu. That's pretty, you know, it's generic for most games, but there are some later Pokemon games that let you press the X button instead. We'll just go down the menu here. So the first menu is your Pokemon. Right now you don't have any Pokemon, so if you press A, all you hear is the little ding, but it's not going to show you anything until you have a Pokemon on there. Item, if you press A on item, it's going to show you all your items in your bag. This bag sadly can be filled. It will warn you when it's filled. It will tell you this item can't fit in your bag and you'll either have to sell something, toss something, or use something to be able to, you know, get your bag open again. You can also put your items in your PC just to free up some more space. TMG, or insert your name here, is the next folder. Probably the most important folder in most Pokemon games because when you look on it, yes, it tells you how much money you're starting out with, how long you played the game, and as you look below, you see the badges here. This gives you the idea of how to progress throughout the game. Look for the sprites that look like these faces, or characters, or whatever you want to say. That's the order you typically want to go in. Yes, there are some games, even including this one, where you can technically take them on in any order, things like that, but yes, as you go farther, they get harder. So number 1's the easiest, number 8's the hardest. The levels, you know, jump as you go around, but again, yes, there are ways, especially in this game, that you can go from 1 to number pretty much almost, you know, 7 with some extra glitches and lucky hacks through randomizers and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy where you can kind of get around without hacks and randomizers and all that. You can technically, I think, get all the way to skip 4 and 5, I believe, before you actually have to start battling gym leaders again. I know you need Surf to access 7 and stuff like that. Either way, but once you get the person defeated, their face will disappear, showing the badge that you earned from them. As you defeat them all, that's what you need to progress further into the game. Every pretty much Pokemon game out there, like I said, a few little exceptions where they change rules, like in the Alola and all that, still have the concept of beat these select gym leaders, these select trainers, to earn your right to go to what's called the Pokemon League, Elite Four, whatever it calls you, Indigo Plateau in this game, I think is what it's called. And as you earn these badges, new areas open up, you get new moves, you get new things like level ups and everything like that. They give you rewards for beating them, along with money, new moves, and all that stuff. So, yeah, it just helps to progress further and further, lets you do more stuff, maybe gets you a new move that unlocks new paths and all that like stuff. So if you're going along somewhere and something's blocking you off, it may mean you have to do something somewhere around that place to unlock that path. Sometimes, yes, it can be farther off in the story, but usually most times it's within a near reach, we'll just say that. But yes, the main goal of pretty much every single Pokemon game is reaching champion rank, meaning beating all the gym leaders, beating the Elite Four or the Indigo Plateau or the Pokemon League, whatever they call it, and then beating the champion. You can talk to Mom here if you want, but she's just going to tell you to, you know, get on your way and do apparently what all 10-year-old Pokemon trainers do and just venture out to the wild. Now, even if you talk to your mom, she's going to say about, yes, visiting Professor Oak and all that stuff. There's not really anybody you're going to talk to around here, even the random NPC trainers and all that, that's really going to tell you where you need to go. But I will say it's best practice to go into every building, talk to every single person, because sometimes they can tell you new information about the game maybe you didn't know, give you little helpful hints, give you useful items, give you maybe a trade or something like that, maybe gives you a gift, a free gift of either an item or a Pokemon that can help you in your journey, things like that. So definitely always talk to everyone. But as you see here, if you were to just walk into the lab here, which if you're ever unsure where you may be going, just read the sign out front. It's going to tell you what the building is. Not every building has a sign, but most do actually have the sign to tell you what it is. But you're going to see when you come up here, he's just not here. He's going to tell you he's just not there. You can't look at the balls, you can't do anything else. You're just kind of like, okay, what do I do? All that great stuff. And sadly, you make the mistake of walking into the wild without a wild Pokemon. But then he comes out of nowhere, like he just magically appeared out of just some craziness to stop you. So yeah, just always adventure around. Eventually you'll find your way. Doesn't hurt to mess around too much. If you're ever unsure if you're not supposed to be in an area, if you have started your journey and have everything starting for you, kind of look at the levels around you. You're going to have a level for your own Pokemon. Look at those levels around you. See if they're equal to you. If they're starting to get above you, you might need to start training up in a past, area or something like that to get caught up. So he's going to tell you all about picking a Pokemon, how there's 3 starter choices. 90% of the Pokemon games have these 3 Pokemon choices. So they're always usually either on a table or a briefcase or something like that, where there are 3 Pokemon choices before you, and they're usually always of the types Fire, Water, and Grass. So, going from left to right here, you have Charmander, and if you're wondering, okay, what is the right choice to make? What is the best choice to make here? There are 2 answers to this I'm going to give. First, the more important answer. Pick what you like. Pick what you want. Either way, you can beat this game. You can have fun with it, because you can do things like over-leveling. You can build well-diverse teams. You can do so much, even if technically, by written rule, it's not the easiest of choices. But let's go ahead and go over the other side of that. What is the right choice, technically, by, whatever. What's gonna make this game, whatever. If you pick Charmander, the fire lizard guy you see right here before you, that's going to be your hardest choice. It pretty much turns the game almost into hard mode, because he's weak to the first gym leader, he's weak to the second gym leader. He doesn't really have any advantage or disadvantage to the third gym leader, unless he's fully evolved. And then he gets finally a first advantage over the 4th gym leader. He helps somewhat in the Elite Four. He helps with the 4th gym, a little bit against certain ones of Koga's team, which is the 5th gym. He's not very effective, but they're also not very effective against the 7th gym, and that's about really all he's got going for him. So he's definitely activating hard mode. Next we have Squirtle, which is kind of like, I'll call it the medium choice. Not bad, but not the greatest either. Squirtle gives you an advantage over the first one. He is negatively, he can't do much to the second one, but they can't do much to him, if that makes sense. The 3rd one he is weak to, the 4th one he is weak to, 5th and 6th he doesn't really do much, but then he's super effective against the 7th and 8th one, and then he has some in the Elite Four that he can kind of do stuff to, but again, nothing like crazy great. I said he's kind of the middle ground. Last, and certainly not least, is good old Bulbasaur. For those going for the easiest route, trying to make this the easiest possible, this is the route you want to go for. Bulbasaur is great against the first one, the second one. The 3rd one he is technically not very effective on, but they're also not very effective against him. The 4th one, same exact scenario. Don't really do much, don't really do much. It's not until really the 5th and 6th ones that he has somewhat weaknesses to, but by then you should have other team members to kind of play along with to conquer his weaknesses. He's he's weak to the 7th one, and then he's strong against 8th and some of the ones in the Elite Four. So yes, he's technically the wisest choice for the early game and everything like that. So whether you're doing a Nuzlocke or not doing a Nuzlocke, if you're doing a speed run or not doing a speed run, and you're wanting the easiest path, fastest path, this is the choice to make. If you are by chance doing a speed run at this point, make sure you have named yourself A and name all of your Pokemon the letter A, because it'll make less text appear on the screen. A little hint for those that are doing speedruns. Nickname them A. Your rival, most of the time, will pick a Pokemon that's stronger against yours, in most cases. But there are a few random games that he does pick a Pokemon weaker to yours. And this next battle is pretty much all luck-based. There are times where he will win, there's some times where he will lose. It just depends on what he chooses, or not chooses, and as far as attacking you. However, if those are doing Nuzlocks, you know that this battle technically doesn't count, because it doesn't count to technically get Pokeballs by official Nuzlocke rules, I believe. So you're going to go into your first battle here. Now he won't tell you much about the battle, sadly. You're going to be seeing this screen before you, not knowing pretty much anything that's going on. It's not sadly until Pokemon Yellow that they kind of give you an idea of how to battle and what to do to battle. But fight is how you fight. Pokemon is how you switch out Pokemon if you have different Pokemon on your team. Items are how to use items. If you use an item, say like a potion or a Pokeball or things like that, it will waste a turn. However, it could help you more down the road, and then run is running away. However, there's certain scenarios where you can't run away, like trainer battles. You can't run from those. But we're going to press A on to fight. Next, you're going to see your moves here. As you level up, where you see that L5, that's your level. As you level up, you will earn new moves, sometimes, usually, in most cases, stronger moves as you level up. Till you have 4 full moves, and as you continue leveling, you'll get new ones, you have to replace old ones, all that. Usually as you level up, you're getting better moves, but sometimes they're not, whatever. But how to honestly know in this generation, sadly, if a Pokemon's move's going to do anything or not, you're going to have to do some trial and error. Later games do tell you if they do damage, what they do, what they don't do, all that great stuff before pressing the A button. However, in these early games, they don't give you all the information about them. So it's going to be some trial and error. But just take this as a big note. Just because a move doesn't do damage doesn't mean it's bad. And I know for many of you veteran players, you definitely probably did this, where you're like, Growl, that doesn't do any damage. Get rid of that for Fire Blast, even though it's like at last accuracy, all that great. You give me the strong new move, whatever it may be. Do not look bad at these non-damaging moves. What these non-damaging moves do is help your Pokemon usually survive a little bit longer, or make your opponent a little bit weaker, to make you do more damage, things like that. For instance, Growl. When I use Growl, it makes his attacks do less damage onto myself, which could help me in the long run. So, however, I am just going to go for the Tackle and start with some damage. He's going to go for Scratch. You see there, it does 4 damage. Now, usually in these early games, high rules, low rules, all that crazy stuff don't play too much of a factor, but you still kind of want to keep it in your head that maybe that this next attack could do a little bit more damage, but it's usually not a gigantic range between a high roll, low roll, mid roll, all that great stuff when an attack is hit. So we saw we had 20 healths. That's our HP is health points. We had 20, and now we have 16, meaning that attack just did 4 damage. Even if we say that's a high roll or not, we'll just kind of still go with we did 4 damage. If he gets what's called a crit, what I do in my head is always say it's going to do double that damage. If he gets a crit right now, it's going to do 8 points of damage, meaning at any point in time, I want to guarantee I have more than 8 health points, just in case some craziness happens. Usually, like I said, because of the whole high roll, low roll thing in my head, once I get around like 10-ish, I'll start healing and all that. But just kind of keep a note of, okay, I know this hit's doing about 4 damage. Worst case, if it does the double, it's going to do 8. Can I safely live that? And if you can, continue attacking. If you can't, then heal. Or switch out. Whatever's the easier play. You can heal anybody or switch out pretty much at any time as long as you have somebody to switch out to, or somebody to heal. Once a Pokemon is called fainted or knocked out, they are no longer to be used unless you use like a revive or something like that. Now, of course, those playing Nuzlocke means once they're dead, but still. So we're at 12 right now, which is a little risky if it was some kind of weird rolling thing. There was a crit right there, see a little bit of RNG right there actually happen. Crits negate anything bad that's happened to you, such as like stat lowering and stuff when he makes my attacks weaker. And usually, good majority of the time, you will level up from these battles. And as you level up, you get more health, you get better stats, all that great stuff. He leaves, and once again, you're going to be given no straight direction to go, whether you talk to Professor Oak or not. It's not going to tell you really what to do, where to go, anything like that. So again, you're going to be stuck in this trial and error phase. Now that we have the Pokemon screen, we can actually go in here. It's going to show you your Pokemon here with a little sprite usually next to it, what level it's at, how much health it has, all that. Always keep these numbers in mind so you know whether you need to, heal them or not. If you hit stats, it'll tell you all of its stats. To know what the Pokemon's usually best at, look at the number that's the biggest. That's usually the stat that they're the best at the current moment. In the future games, yes, there's things like natures and IVs, EVs, all this complicated stuff that we just don't need to go into right now. And I don't know if, maybe in future games, yes, we'll probably have to go into it a little bit, but ultimately, just look at the highest number. That's usually the stat that it mostly specializes in. And all these little stats have extra special modes, so like attack stat, so as you saw me doing tackle, that is an attacking move. That's how much strength I have into those moves. To know if a thing is special or physical attack. So special just stands for an all-over special. It does change in future generations, but for right now it just stands for special. But there are regular attacks, physical attacks, like you saw me with tackle using, and then there's these special attacks. To know if it's special or not, the easiest way to look at it is Google up Eevee's evolutions. Pretty much anything Eevee can evolve into is special. So grass is special, fire is special, dark is special, all that, all the evolutions are special, and then dragon's the other one that's not an evolution that's special. That's usually the general rule. Again, if you're ever having any troubles of knowing what is what, Google, Cerebi, Bulbapedia, all that great stuff is the greatest thing to look at to figure out all that. Just make sure when you are Googling or searching to type in the generation you're playing. So in this case, you would look up Pokemon, Red Gen 1, whatever you're looking up at that point. So that way it's relating it to the generation you're actually playing in. Otherwise, it's always going to default to the newest one. Anyway, so you see all the stats there, all that great stuff. And this generation, speed's probably the most important stat, because speed means more hacks, because this game is broken, terribly, terribly broken, and more speed means more crits and more craziness to happen. Don't know 100% why, but I'm sure there's some video out there that explains why speed stat plays so much into everything. Next, over to the far right, you're going to see their types. This is very, very much important, because there's this big thing called type matchups. Meaning certain types are better against other types, and vice versa. Or they're weak against them, strong against them, neutral against them. There is a big type chart, again, online that you can look up. Usually, general rule of thumb is, think of it in real life scenarios, and usually it does make sense, like water puts out fire, so fire is weak to water. Water conducts electricity, so water is weak to electricity. Grass uses water to, gain more life. Water is weak to grass. Things like that. Rocks, put out fire, so we're, just things like that. There are, though, a few, yes, weird scenarios that just don't make any sense, like ghosts being weak to dark, even though ghosts are usually in the dark, and steel not being weak to electric, even though it's also a conductor to electricity. And probably quite a few others that I can't go into, but like I said, that's usually just talking about one type. So, say grass type, like I said, they're going to be weak to fire, going to be weak to ice, going to be weak to whatever, all these other types that I don't want to go into, flying, all that. But once they add two types, as you see my Bulbasaur here has type 1, grass, type 2, poison. Once it has two types, now you're taking in both those types. Yes, I know it's getting more complicated now. See, this is why I'm saying it's technically a little bit more advanced than a 12-year-old. But you're now taking two type advantages put together. So whatever is super effective against both of them is now quad effective. So if it's super effective against grass and super effective against poison, it's quadruple effective against you. If you resist it on both types, it's now quad resisted. If one's super effective and one's not very effective, it's just going to be neutral, meaning it's just going to have a normal effect. Things like that. That's how this generally works for types. Again, there is a big type matchup chart online, but again, just make sure you're going through the right generation, because generational types and type matchups have changed over the years, such as Psychic now being weak to Ghost in second and further on generations, adding the Fairy type in the 6th generation, adding Dark and Steel type in the 2nd generation, all this, extra stuff that gets added throughout time. So be sure to do your research. Again, worst come to worst, if you just don't have that much time or that much whatever, trial and error, see what says super effective. It will say it's super very effective. It will say it's not very effective. If it doesn't say anything at all, it was neutral. If it says it missed or doesn't affect the Pokemon, it just doesn't mean it works. Missing can happen at pretty much any point. Every single attack, sadly, in Gen 1 has a 1 out of 256 attack or chance to miss because of, again, weird bug glitch in the game. But future games do fix that a bit. But again, all Pokemon moves have what's called a set accuracy between, I think the lowest is like usually 30% to the highs of 100% accuracy, and then there's a few moves that just can never miss at all, like Swift and stuff like that. Those usually go above and beyond the accuracy checks. But just because a move says it's 100% accurate doesn't mean it can't technically miss. Trust me, I know. Just look up Surf misses on my channel and you'll figure that out. Anyway, as you press A, you'll get the next screen that tells you his moves, all that great stuff. In future Pokemon games, you can click on these moves, see what they do, what, type they are, all that. Pretty much in these early generations, however, sadly, it doesn't tell you what they do or what type they are or anything like that. So again, it's going to be some more trial and error to figure out what can or cannot do things. Just pretty much, the more moves you have, the more likelihood to succeed, just because they're going to be either different types, different enhancements that will maybe help you cover certain scenarios. The most important thing I'll look at this screen is the PP usage. That's how many times you can use the move. So like Tackle you can use 35 times, Growl you can use 40 times. Every time you heal at a Pokemon Center, that PP restores. There's also certain items and all that can help this as well. But mostly it's Pokemon Centers that heal that number back up to the 35 maximum. Once you run out or it's at 0, you will, for both moves, you will start to struggle. What struggle does is basically, as you do damage to somebody, you also do damage to yourself, just because you're struggling to battle. The last thing important on the screen is looking at the experience stuff. The total experience points don't really fully matter, but where it says level up 32 to level 7, that's how many experience points you need to get to the next level. Like I said, further levels give you new moves, maybe a new Pokemon, maybe a new evolution, things like that. Like I said, the bigger your levels, the bigger advantages you have. Now, is there such thing as overleveling? Of course there's overleveling. But like I said, just kind of keep going to the routes ahead, see if those levels are above your own or not. If they aren't, you're probably okay, you're on par, but it doesn't always hurt to be a few, 2 or 3 levels above wherever you're at in the game, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, there's no hardcore rule if you're on level 40 and everybody else is on level 10. There's not a hardcore rule. Is it frowned upon? Probably yes, but again, no one's gonna, punch you in the face just because, you're trying to make it, easier on yourself and trying to figure this all out. The only other thing you can do in the Pokemon screen once you get new Pokemon is switch them out. Whoever's at the very top, like you see A here, it's at the very top, my Bulbasaur. Whoever's ever at the very top is the Pokemon that's always going to come out first and be used first. If you want to change that, hit switch and select the other person you're wanting to use instead. Either way, we can now continue forward into the game here. For those that are avid Nuzlockers, technically there are no ways to get Pokeballs in this game unless you pick them up from a random item or buying them in the mart. Those are the only 2 ways you can get a Pokeball in this game. Also, there was this showing of always talk to NPCs because they can give you free items that may help you in the game. We're going to actually see now our first wild encounter here, which is this. So to know if it's wild or not, always will appear with wild Pokemon. Like I said, these times you can actually sometimes run away from. There might be unlucky instances where you just can't escape and they may kill you, but sometimes it's, all luck based. But you'll see there where it says the Pokemon's name, what level they are, like him in this case level 3, I'm on level 6, which means you're about 3 levels above this certain area right here. Like I said, the next area might be different levels and all that, so like I said, you always want to be about 2 or 3 above whatever level these guys are at. And like I said, you can battle these guys and get experience from them, same as like trainers. Trainers do give more experience than wild battles, but either way is a good way to grind. But yes, for those playing Nuzlocke, you literally cannot catch a Pokemon until you buy some Pokeballs yourself or acquire a Pokeball from random items. But maybe you didn't know this for you avid Nuzlockers. Did you know you can actually get pretty much a great majority of this game without ever your Nuzlocke starting? Pretty much you can get all the way to for sure Silph without your Nuzlocke starting, because without grabbing items and obviously or buying Pokeballs and all that. Because the first time you actually get a ball truly given to you is the Master Ball from the President. But I know, at least from watching Fire Red stuff, you don't have to necessarily talk to the President to get the Master Ball. So I'm assuming you can continue progressing on without getting a ball. Meaning your Nuzlocke could probably never actually truly start. Now, the only bad thing to that being is you don't obviously get any wild Pokemon to catch to build up a team with. However, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but there's all those gift Pokemons. The Magikarp right before Mount Moon, the Lapras, the Eevee, things like that to, give you at least a team to go off of. And even if you're like, well, you have to get the Master Ball, say if this game makes you get the Master Ball, at that point you should have at minimum 5 badges, if not 6. And like I said, there are other ways you can get multiple other badges before that Nuzlocke starts, because you should have Surf by that point, so you can technically get the 7th badge and all that. Pretty much you can get every badge but the 8th one, if it gives you the Master Ball. I think. Actually, you might even be able to get the 8th. I don't know. Either way, if it gives you the Master Ball, you can then go catch the Legendary and get another super strong level 50 Pokemon on your team too. So yeah, just thought that would be a little interesting little tidbit. So now that we're in our first town here, this here is the Pokemon Center. Like I said, always just read the signs outside the stores. They'll tell you what it is and tells you usually a little bit about it. This is where you heal your Pokemon. Does everything for you. Just be careful not to mash the button too fast or too long, or you're going to be in a never-ending cycle of healing your Pokemon. Once you've done it once, it does it for everybody on your team. You don't have to do it multiple times. This is usually the Trade Center or Battle Center, very rarely used unless you are trying to catch them all. This here is the PC like you saw in your room. There's also one here. However, the only difference in this one and the one in your room is this one will let you access the Pokemon in your box. The only way to acquire Pokemon in your box is to capture more than 6 Pokemon. That's the only way to get Pokemon into your box. Just be careful with the bag and the boxes in this game, the item bag here and the Pokemon box in the Pokemon Center down here. They can get full. Like I said, the only way to get your bag unfull is by selling or tossing or putting things in your PC. The only way to get Pokemon, be able to catch more Pokemon or get more Pokemon in your boxes is changing the Pokemon box number. This is all this complicated process you don't want to face with. Next you're going to see is usually the Pokemon Mart. Again, tells you what it is outside. And like I said, if you're one now that is entering every building, exploring everything, you'll finally see, hey, like, I've just triggered something. Because if you normally were just like, oh, I'm not going to go here, I'm just going to continue progressing forward, there's a guy that's blocking your path actually straight ahead that's not letting you get through until you go to this part of the story. Good general rule of knowing where to usually go is checking usually the town maps, which I'll go over here once we actually acquire the town map. So we're going to go ahead and get all the way back here. Also, if you're trying to avoid trainers or say like these grassy areas like you see here, sometimes there's magical little ways around, like these ledges here, or long paths you can take to avoid trainers or Pokemon battles if you're trying to, not have to worry too much about it. Now there might be some instances like here where you just can't avoid certain things. But you might get lucky like me and not have to run into anybody. So now we're going to go back into here. We know we have a parcel for Mr. Oak. And we're going to go ahead and drop it off. Now that this is all happening, he's going to give me the fancy dancy Pokedex, which unlocks the Pokemon Pokedex screen in your menu. And I'm sorry for the fast word sounds, but I'm just trying to get out of that. So now you'll see the Pokedex has been added to your menu. When you click on it, it's going to show every Pokemon you caught with a Pokeball, every Pokemon you've seen without a Pokeball but their name, things like that. If you click on them and you hit area, it's going to show you all the areas where you can find that Pokemon if you're needing to find them. But there are some instances that certain Pokemon just can't be found anywhere at all. So just note that you might have to get a friend or extra tools in order to get certain Pokemon. Like I said, there is trading in this game to where you can trade with friends and everything like that. If you're needing to at any point, and I'd say to do this at all occasions, hit A to save. Saving the game doesn't hurt. It tells you how much progress you made, how long you've been playing for, all that. Wait for the save confirmation to come, which is right there, that little ding. It doesn't hurt to keep constantly saving, especially before important moments, just in case you're afraid you're gonna screw up or something. So we're gonna go ahead and battle this wild Pokemon really quick. It goes for Tail Whip, which is gonna lower my defense, and like I said, while that's not a non-damaging move, it does make me a bit weaker. But I think eventually we're gonna kill this guy here, or feint him, or knock him out, or whatever the right term is. And we gain a level, and there's where you see a move being learned. If we had too many moves, it would tell me, do I want to learn this or not, and you would have to hit yes or no. And like I said, usually new moves as you're learning them are usually better than old moves. But once you get through all this and back to good old this town, you can always go back and heal at the Pokemon Center here. But what I say to go ahead and do is talk to the old man that was blocking your path originally, which is this guy here, and he will show you the catching tutorial. Although you have to make sure that you say that you are not in a hurry, like I just accidentally didn't do. And he will show you how to catch a Pokemon, in case you don't know how to catch one. At this point, you are trying to, catch a Pokemon. Like I said, if you're wanting to do that, whether you're in a Nuzlocke or not, go to the Pokemart where you saw me grab the parcel. It's going to have things called Pokeballs, which you can use, like he's using right now, to capture a Pokemon. The weaker they are, the easier they are to capture. You just don't want to kill them. If you feint them, knock them out, whatever you would call it, you're not able to catch them anymore until you run into a new one. But the weaker they are, the easier they are to capture. Certain Pokemon are harder to capture, all that great stuff depending on rarity or, how, big, strong they are, things like that. Again, if you're not really sure where to go, actually I forgot to grab the town map, so let me go ahead and quickly do that, because I don't want to have to be using anything else, because it's a little bit longer. Alright, so in case you don't know where, the rival technically told you don't go talk to his sister. Go talk to his sister, get the town map, like I didn't do. That's how she said, you'll figure out where you are by using the town map. So you go to items, look for town map, use it. To know where to technically go in the game, press the up button on your controller. You're going to see now the next route to go to. So you see this case, the next route you would go to is Route 1, then the next thing you need to go to is Viridian City, the next thing you need to go to is Route 2. Why didn't it recommend to your left? There is a reason for that. It's because you are technically not ready for it. Can you go over there? Yes. But there are certain events over that way that are a bit over-leveled for you at the current time. So, kind of like I said, go in the route that it's saying to go. So, like I said, as you continue heading up, it's going to tell you where to go next. You go to the Viridian Forest. You can technically enter Diglett's Cave, Pewter City, and all that. You just can't go all the way through Diglett's Cave, by the way. Route 3, Mount Moon, Route 4, Cerulean. Now, this is where it's going to get weird. As you saw, go 1, 2, 3, 4. You think the next progression would be 5. However, in this case, it's going to bring you all the way to Route 24, which is a really big number. I know, I get it. But, like I said, kind of follow the route it's telling you to go, because it maybe is leading somewhere. And then it's going to tell you how to go about every which way on taking these routes around. And yes, like I said, it's not always in the America order, but there's a reason for it, and it's just to make sure you're fully prepared for the instances. Because here, like I said, after you've done all that I just checked off, is technically when you should be entering that route to your left. And then you get to Victory Road, Indigo Plateau, and then usually some of the post-game or extra stuff is usually shown after you press up on that one. And then you're back at the beginning, once you get back to your town you're, currently in. As you progress through the game, you're going to get things to faster travel than just walking around, like a bicycle or flying. HM moves are acquired through that. We talked about it a little bit, but as you beat the gym leaders and all that, you get things called TMs, which are usually stronger moves than stuff that you already have. You can also find them in the Supermarts. Supermarts are found later, usually in the game as well, where you can buy stronger moves that allow you to do more damage. But as I was saying, just kind of collecting those new things as I keep running into battles are never a bad thing, and collecting those badges is what you need actually to beat the game anyway, so might as well collect them anyway to get the TMs. And then you usually see them talking about like certain Pokemon can now obey you and all that. If the Pokemon is yours, especially in these very early games, they will always obey you. However, if the Pokemon is not yours, if it was given to you by your friend or through some other trading method, those Pokemon will not obey you if they're below the level thing that it says it's supposed to obey you by. Also, every game, including this one, has what's called an evil team that you usually have to face and all that. In this game, it is Team Rocket. You're going around, you will find them throughout the game as you play them, and they'll be very much noticeable. But you will be facing them in order to defeat that evil team, and there's a whole story usually to all those evil teams and why they're doing what they're doing. It's always just a fun little thing to kind of explore and do and all that. With those objectives and all that, sometimes you're going to need these extra items again. Through hunting around, messing around, clicking around, you're going to figure out, hey, this may go to something. You're going to get things like keys, elevator keys, door keys. You're going to get like things like gold teeth or silk scopes, or I don't even know what else. There's probably a couple SSN tickets, things like that that give you access to things either in the future or near future that you will need. So always be key on what you have in your stock. If you haven't used it, it might be something important to the story. Like I said, sometimes it's hard to tell an item versus a true like story item. But that's why I said it's always important to talk to people, things like that. If you see somebody who's maybe acting weird and maybe something could go to fix that. I think the most trickiest one is the gold teeth situation in the 5th gym leader town, where if you technically were to talk to all the NPC people first, you'll find this guy that's mumbling and not talking straight, but then you go collect the gold teeth, and then you were to talk to him again and give it to him, then he's talking clearly, and then he gives you the HM for strength. So there are some weird instances where it just doesn't tell you where to go, what to do. That makes it a little challenging, especially like say like the HMs for like Flash and stuff, not telling you really like 15 Pokemon is what you need, or even define the guide that gives you Flash is a little weird. Things like certain move items do actually help, but like I said, they do waste a turn. However, in future games, you can kind of give them to them to hold on to. However, in these early games, you just have to use them to heal them. You can use items at any point, whether it be in a battle or out of a battle, to heal up your Pokemon or make them stronger, things like that. Just like I said, if you're in a battle, it's going to waste a turn, so just be mindful of that. But there are a few items, like the X accuracy item, that are completely broken in this game, again through glitches and all that for whatever reason. But yes, whereas if you use an X accuracy, you'll just never miss again. Again, why these things happen, I don't know. Same reason why a Great Ball is better than an Ultra Ball in this game. Something written in the code that's messed up. I'm sure maybe even if you're new to Pokemon, you've heard of Shinies. There are no Shinies in Gen 1, sadly. They're technically by IDs and stuff. There's a way you can get them and transfer them to Gen 2, but they're not going to show up in your game overworld until you transfer them into Gen 2 and see that they are in fact shiny. But yeah, just as a note, so you're not just trying to shiny hunt in this game. There are things like here, which I'll show you right now, like hidden items that you won't know are around. Again, you can find these, yes, through searching online. But they can also help you in the game. You will get a thing later in the game called an item finder that you can use as an item to find hidden items. All that. There's also, like I said, we talked a bit about the static and gift Pokemon. Your starter's technically one of the gift Pokemon that you get, but yeah, there's certain people you talk to that give you a free Pokemon, a free, way of adding to your team. Never hurt to acquire. You also at some point in the game can get the Experience All, which gives experience to all of your Pokemon, not just the one that's the very first one in your party. Later Pokemon games always have the Experience All on, where everybody gets experience, but sadly these early ones, you have to have the item in order to gain experience. Pretty much for these early ones, if the Pokemon's in a battle, they're going to get experience. If they're not going to get experience. It's pretty much how it works. All Pokemon games have what's called post-game. After you beat the champion, beat what's considered pretty much the main thing of Pokemon, there's going to be a post-game in order to explore. Sometimes they're big and long. Other times there's something short and sweet. Games also have like a new story element. Usually have new characters, sometimes recurring characters that you get to see. Rivals sometimes change, whether they're an evil rival, a bully rival, a good rival, a teammate, not a rival. The evil teams sometimes change, whether they're truly evil, completely maniacal, crazy evil, or, just had something, people just look at them the wrong way. Every game has great music. Like I said, one has a new story. Every game pretty much gives you a Master Ball. Every time you get to face the box art, usually legendary, if it's legendary on your box. For red and blue, it's just one of the birds or Mewtwo, depending on what you use the Master Ball on, but you pretty much always get guaranteed one legendary to capture with your said Master Ball to use throughout the game at some point, usually typically later in the game. Usually always have either static mons, gift mons, a starter choice, sometimes two starter choices, a catching tutorial, things that block your path that you need certain progression points, and all games have a post game. So just an interesting little extra tidbit, but yeah, every game, just keep in mind, does have its own little charm to it. So just don't pass on it just because you think this certain one you're playing was bad. There's always something new added in a different game. Yes, most do boil down to the same formula, but some have better graphics, some have, new takes, all that, new immersions, new gameplay mechanics that may make your experience better. Also, really quick note, as we saw on the map there, if you're wanting to know whether or not you're entering a new area, as you saw there, listen for the music changes. Music changes show that you're in a new area. Also, the music's just fun to listen to, so always listen to the music. Also, I have my note sheet over here to my right, so, just kind of don't judge me on that. We did talk a bit about using the ledges to, skip things. You can only jump down them. You cannot jump up them, sadly. If you are using a Pokeball, or any ball for that instance, to capture a Pokemon and it says it missed it, it means it just only shook once or just failed. Just keep trying, or maybe you have to weaken it a bit more, do more things to help yourself catch it. Also, things like status conditions exist. I didn't talk about this yet, and I should have earlier, but yes, there are things called status conditions. There's poison, paralysis, sleep, burn, confusion, I think is technically under that realm. I don't know if confusion technically counts as a status or not, but statuses affect either yourself or other Pokemon. If you're catching a Pokemon, it does make it easier for them to capture because they have that status on them, but because they have that status on them, could make them die quicker. Say that they're poisoned or burned, it does damage over time. Same onto yourself. In any Pokemon game before Gen 4, the things like poison hurt you outside the battle too, so just be sure you're close to a Pokemon Center or you can heal or use items to get rid of the poisoning. Yeah. And all the Pokemon status moves are bad, frozen, whatever. I think the frozen one's the only one that's permanent in this game. You have to use an Ice Heal to get rid of frozen, or be hit by a fire move, I think, still in this game. Maybe not. But all the rest you can get rid of, through items and all that stuff, or just switching them out. Some do run out over time, like sleep and confusion. Eventually you wake up or you break out of confusion. But some are permanent, like paralysis and poison and burn is permanent. Yeah, I had to think about it. Rack my brain. But yeah, just always make sure you're near a healing center or have enough healing items to keep yourself alive. Let's see, what else can we talk about? If you're playing a randomizer and acquire a drink, such as a lemonade, a fresh water, a tea, or whatever else there is, Definitely use those to open up more of the areas of the game. You'll find these guards that are saying that they're thirsty, and use that to break the game a bit more and access more fun areas. Just be careful when doing such, because again, there's going to be some high-level things if you accidentally run into them, so just be smart about it, but it can help you faster travel. Also, as we're talking about the fresh waters and all that great stuff, it's important to note that they can only be found, unless you're playing a randomizer, things like that, in the supermarts. Those are the only place you can get the fresh water, the lemonade, the drinks, to open the gates from the guards. You can only get to the said supermarts, like I said, later in the game, use it after story progression. But yeah, it's usually at the very top level. There's vending machines that you can get the fresh water and all that. I figure that'd be a very important note to note here, especially as we're entering our gates. Anyway, that to find those, you just gotta go to the supermart, and that's where you get those items to progress forward. There's also, like I said, many notable glitches. We talked about the X-accuracy glitch. We talked about the speed glitching, which if you're faster, you're going to do more hacks and stuff like that. There's also the Pokédoll glitch, where if you enter the ghost town in this game, and you don't have the Silph Scope on, which is the thing that lets you see ghosts, you can use the Pokédoll to avoid things and not have to be scared away. And you can do that to skip a whole section of the game, pretty much, through that glitch. We did talk about if a path is blocked, just kind of look around, maybe try to find an item to maybe get. Could be further back, could be in the, in certain areas you might just have to find them. We didn't talk about at all, so we saw here how Bulbasaur here is the grass poison type, meaning anytime he goes for a grass and or poison move, those are going to be stronger for him. This is what we called stab. Stab stands for same type advantage? I think, no, same type attack bonus. That's what it is. Same type attack bonus. That's what it is. Sorry, I had to think about it. But yeah, same type attack bonus. Every Pokemon gets this based on their typing. So if it's fire, all fire moves get a stab bonus. Basically just adds a little bit, I think it's 0.5 extra attack onto those moves. Just an important note, just that those moves will sometimes do a bit more damage if they are, used on somebody. There is no true way. I mean, randomizers, yes, there might be a way, but most of the time there is no true way to catch them all. If you're trying to complete the Pokedex, you will need the other Pokemon versions. So if you have Pokemon Red, you will need Pokemon Blue in order to catch them all, because you will need a trade, because there's only certain Pokemon in Red, and there's only certain Pokemon in Blue. Like Red has, I think, Scyther, but Blue has Pinsir. I forget what other ones are version exclusives, but I know in like the Let's Go, it's like Oddish and Bellsprouts are in different ones. So just you get more notes on that. The same with like the fossils. To get the other fossil, you have to have another save file or a friend or something like that. Talking about the HMs here a little bit. So all the HMs, once you acquire them, whether it be from certain story events or talking to people or however you get the said HMs, future games make easier options. So when you're trying to use, say, like cut or surf or something like that, when you usually approach a object that can be cut or surfed on, you just press A and it'll activate it. However, in these very, very early games, you have to go into the Pokemon menu, press A on the Pokemon menu, press A on your Pokemon, and then usually above where it says stats here, will say strength, flash, cut, whatever HM you can use. You can only have, obviously, a maximum of 4 HMs at any given time. Only certain Pokemon can learn certain HMs, so again, better to have diverse moves. You can always get like an HM slave or something like that if you're not wanting someone to have an HM move, because not all of them do damage and things like that. But definitely you have to go to the Pokemon screen, select the Pokemon, and then press the move in order to activate it to be used. Some are activated instantly, like Cut, where it just automatically cuts down whatever in front of you. Strength, when you start using it, it will continue to use it throughout that route you're in until you enter a new area, pretty much. But yeah, that's pretty much all that's about the HMs. If you're having trouble finding an HM move, like we talked about strength being really weird, again, maybe just some more exploration, or maybe a new gym leader or somebody else you have to beat in order to acquire it. Unless it's blocked off. The bike in this game is going to be the fastest you're ever going to get to go. other than flying. I guess maybe flying might be argued as the fastest traveling method. But the bicycle path is probably the trickiest path with the bicycle, as you're technically unable to brake unless you press the up button. It's the only way you can brake your vehicle or make it stop. There is a daycare in pretty much every single Pokemon game. The future games allow for breeding, like we talked about. However, in this first one, it does not. The daycare is literally just used for leveling up a Pokemon. If you have just, somebody you're just wanting to make stronger, every step you take outside that daycare, if they're being taken care of in the daycare, you just literally talk to the daycare man, say, hey, take care of this guy. Every step you take after that point gives them 1 XP point. The later you come back, the more XP they gain or whatever like that. And you can pick them up at any point, see what level they're at. If you need more levels, give it back. If not, whatever. Or you can always grind it, things like that too. Do stuff. There's a few also different modes if you're wanting to just explore some stuff. There's like the casino where you can gamble and whatever, get some new mons. Different games have different things like beauty contest or Pokeathlons or whatever else. But yeah, there's also like the Safari Zone if you're wanting a different change on the Pokemon catching ways, where you only get like a limited chance to catch a Pokemon or not by using food or rocks and stuff like that to make them easier or harder to capture. There's only single battles in this game, luckily. However, future generations do add different battling modes. There is a weird glitch in this game where if you use the move Hyper Beam and you kill the Pokemon, you won't have to recharge. But if you don't, then you will have to recharge. They're typically a move relearner, move remover, a move relearner, deleter, and a renamer. All in every single Pokemon game besides these earlier ones. There's pretty much usually only the renamer. If you're wanting to rename a Pokemon, you can go there. But there usually is, most games, a relearner. If you're wanting to learn a new move, to get rid of a bad move or something like that, you can usually go to that. All wild Pokemon and I believe trainer Pokemon have infinite PP in this game, so they will never struggle. So you can't try to stall them out in this game, sadly. Things like Wrap, Bind, Clamp, Fire Spin are completely also broken in this game. They pretty much last forever, unless that Pokemon is finally killed. Typically they're supposed to last for 5 turns, but as long as that Pokemon's in and continuously using that move, it's going to trap you, and you can't move when you're put in a Wrap, a Fire Spin, a Clamp, whatever, because you're unable to move because you're trapped in that scenario. And like I said, they can last anywhere between the minimum of 2 to 5 turns, and as they continue using it, it's going to continuously keep you trapped, so you have to either be faster or basically die. That's pretty much your choices there. If your Pokemon's unable to learn a move, that doesn't necessarily mean it's never going to learn it. It might be just the wrong evolution. You might need the baby form or a further evolution in order to earn it. Say like Charmeleon won't be able to learn Fly, but Charizard can learn Fly. It's very few words you need the baby to learn it, but there are a few scenarios out there. The last thing pretty much of note is that there are things called repels, escape ropes, all that to help you get out of situations. If you're really trying to avoid wild Pokemon and don't always have a way around, buying repels gets rid of wild Pokemon that are weaker than you. And then escape ropes, if you're just feeling like you're trapped somewhere and don't know how to get back, you use an escape rope and it'll take you back usually to the entrance or the nearest Pokemon Center that you were last at to get out there. There's also moves like teleport or dig that also can get you out of situations that can bring you back to the last point of an entrance or a Pokemon Center to help you reset or heal or get back to normal. It's not like it's technically resetting the game, it's just getting you back on a safer path and trying to reconfigure on how to go back forward. Like I said, all Pokemon games have the generic same formula of level up, beat gym leaders, become the champion. But like I said, every new game adds something new. And that's something more we would go into in those other videos. If you want to know what Gen 2 adds, go watch the Gen 2 video. If you want to see what Gen 3 adds, go to that one. For now, this has all been about Red and Blue. Yellow we'll do in a different video. But all those videos won't happen unless you continue liking these videos and continue watching our videos as well. This is gonna be the Modern Gamer signing out. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video, stream, whatever it may be. Kaka.